Hello, YouTube. Really excited to talk about this one, man. We got the 2023 American supernatural horror film directed by Patrick Wilson in his directorial debut from a screenplay by Scott Teems based on a story by Lee Winnell and Teems. We have Insidious the Red Door. This is the fifth installment to a super iconic supernatural horror series. Probably one of the most iconic supernatural horror series ever. We have Insidious, obviously. Insidious the Red Door. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this. This is a new release. I think every week now we're going to try to watch some new movies. I'm thinking about buying HBO Max. I really am. I want to. There's like a Black Friday deal going on. It's like $2.99 a month for 6 months. I'm probably going to do that. I'm probably going to watch The Sopranos. So, yeah, really dope stuff. So, let's just get into the plot, critical reception, and then, yeah. So, getting into the plot, in 2019, or 9 years after his possession, Josh Lambert's memories of his experience in the further have been repressed. He is divorced from his wife Renee, and his mother Lorraine has recently died. So his relationship with his son Dalton has become strained, and he attempts to heal things between them while dropping him off at college, but it ends with them in an argument. I really like this movie. It's such a real experience because, you're going through like this college life, and then you have the strained family relationship, father and son. Oh, you don't have a good relationship with my mother, why would I have a good relationship with you type of deal. It's so dope. Like, it's a really surreal experience. You really got to appreciate this movie. Yeah, so in his first art class, Dalton ends up drawing a picture of the red door used to enter the further, which has been used in, I think, every movie, like this door, obviously. Meanwhile, Josh begins being haunted by the spirit of a man, eventually discovering that it is his father, Ben Burton, who he believed abandoned his family when he was young. And you kind of get abandoned by people that have done you wrong and stuff like that. That kind of makes sense. Hauntings, that's kind of how hauntings work. Malicious human beings. Yeah, I really like this storyline too, with Dalton being like an artist and drawing shit, because obviously in a lot of movies, kids, in a lot of horror movies, kids would draw like what they see. Oh, it's like the monster mom, and they wouldn't believe them, but then they start believing him, and in Dalton's case, he became like an artist. I think that's such a cool thing that this show, like a cool trope that this show kind of took to the next level, or this movie took to the next level. So Dalton attends a frat party with his roommate Chris, where he sees the ghost of a student that is constantly vomiting. After accidentally going into the further again, Chris shows Dalton a YouTube video by Specs and Tucker explaining how astral projection works, which leads to a clip of Elise Rainier talking about the further. This is obviously like the exorcist person, like the demonologist. I don't know what they called her, like a psychic, or I don't remember what her like official title was in the series, but she's obviously one of the most important characters in this entire show. So Dalton attempts to astral project again while Chris watches over his body. Chris is then attacked by an unseen entity, and her screams alert Dalton, who rushes back to her body and sees that is the red-faced demon that tormented him as a child. One of the most iconic horror villains in movie history. I mean, just amazing. I love this series. I mean, this franchise isn't perfect, but there's a lot of really iconic moments. It's a very memorable one. And this movie just adds on to that. This movie kind of pays homage to the old movies. Obviously, it's a part of the storyline. And just reminds us how good these movies really used to be. But after being warned by Chris to stop using his abilities, Dalton receives a call from his brother Foster, who tells about a recurring dream he used to have of Josh trying to kill them. This spurs Dalton's memory, and he finishes his painting, which shows a possessed Josh in front of the red door. And it's like his dad trying to kill him with a hammer because he was like an abusive father or whatever, and that's what kind of created rifts in their relationship. And obviously Dalton was a kid. He didn't really remember all of this stuff. It was a bit hazy at the time. So a distressed Dalton is pulled into the further, back to when a possessed Josh attacked them in the basement. I don't remember if this was shown in any of the movies. It's actually been a decent bit since I've seen an Insidious movie. I think I watched one pretty recently, maybe, but I'd have to look through my channel catalog and all my content. I don't remember, but if you guys know, just let me know. I know most people don't really watch these movie reviews, but yeah, it is what it is. So Yeah, so he tackles Josh as he attempts to kill his younger self and ends up transported back to the red-faced demon's lair with like the Tiny Tim shit playing on like the distorted music on the mimrophone or something like that. I don't remember what they call those. Josh begins researching his father and discovers that he killed himself while institutionalized in a mental hospital. How they let him kill himself, we don't know. He talks to Renee, who reveals the truth about what happened to their family a decade ago, and that his father also had the ability to astral project, but believed the things he saw were a result of mental illness. And oh, he was just hallucinating. Everyone thinks I'm crazy, so I'm just going to roll with it. Which is a pretty sad story, honestly, because it ultimately ended in his demise. He thought he was going crazy, so he killed himself. But no, you actually just had this ability to communicate with spirits and move through realms and dimensions and all that stuff. Foster shows him a photo of Dalton's painting he texted, and they realize Dalton is in danger because he's like painting these memories and kind of like, what do you call it? Oh my god, I can't think of that word. He's kind of like conjuring them up, maybe. I don't know. Renee helps Josh to go back into the further to rescue their son. With Dalton trapped in his lair, the demon possesses his body and attempts to kill Chris, but is stopped when Josh manages to find and free Dalton. So Josh pretty much saves his son's life, and he also saves Chris's life. They're like sitting in this dorm room. It's so cool. I really like that they had him like go to college and attend art school. It's a really dope storyline. It makes for a really fun movie. Artistically, this might not be one of the best movies, but it's still a whole lot of fun. So yeah. So the demon chases them to the red door, and Josh stays behind to keep it shut so Dalton will be safe. Dalton returns to his body and paints over his red door painting with black paint, which in turn seals the real door and the further. Again, it's like you're painting shit into existence. It's kind of a dope thing about this movie. So Josh meets his father's spirit, who guides him back to the living world. And he realized, his father actually loved him. He was just super mentally ill. Didn't really, obviously Josh didn't really know that much about his family. So he was kind of questioning if he even had a good dad as a kid. So once back, Josh agrees to have dinner with Renee and the kids, hinting at a possible reunion. I'm not sure how many more Insidious movies they're going to make, by the way. And I don't think they really hinted at anything through this movie. So as he leaves, he unknowingly meets Lisa's spirit, who tells him that he has a bright future ahead of him. So Josh then drives to Dalton's college, where father and son reconcile as Dalton represents a painting of Josh carrying a young Dalton out of the further, a pretty iconic scene, if you ask me, out of the original or out of the older movies. So in the post-credit scene, the light over the sealed door to the further flickers back on. I didn't watch the post-credit scene. I kind of forgot to, but I was reading over it. I was like, okay, it flickers back on. We're probably going to have another Insidious movie. I kind of forgot to watch it. 6 movies is kind of a lot for a series like this, but I'm all in. I mean, Patrick Wilson was an amazing director. I think he put an awesome touch on this movie. Let's get to the review, guys. So getting into the review, I think this is really good. Not a lot of people like it. I mean, earlier installments have had their moments, but behind Insidious The Red Door, I don't know. Some people say it's disappointing. Once frightening franchise. Yeah, it's not the most scary, but I think it has a pretty acceptable level of horror. It can still be considered like a horror film. I don't like, people will not like this movie, but I actually really like it. Some people say it's average. Some people say it's kind of mid, but I don't know. It's a C movie to a lot of people, but I would give it a B or an A. I think it's a lot of fun. For a first-time director, Patrick Wilson doesn't do a bad job, but he's working with tropes that have kind of already, like, there are a couple tropes here I will say that are kind of generic, but I don't know. Some people say it's time to end the franchise. I just don't agree. I mean, I think it's wonderful that they're making another movie, and I really want to see what Patrick Wilson has in store, as a director. I think that would be a wonderful time. I mean, this film itself probably had some pretty satisfying closure, getting out of the further, painting over the door, not letting the demon back in. But, I don't know. I mean, those hoping to learn more about the lipstick demon in the darkest corners of the further may come away disappointed. I mean, the Red Door isn't really interested in the mythology, but instead in examining how its ghosts fracture the family and whether their enduring love can make them whole again. I do like that. I do really like that about the film. The family aspect. They're going through some tough times as a family. But yeah, Wilson reminds audiences why they fell for the Lambert family in the first place with a sentimental sequel that tenderly bids them farewell. I guess it's the end. I don't know if they're making more movies. They kind of had that post-credit scene that hinted at some things. I'm not really sure. I might have to do some research on that, see what Patrick Wilson is thinking. I don't know if he's made any comments on that, because obviously that was like a really big controversial moment for the series when this movie came out. Yeah, like you got to appreciate characters in a horror film. You can't have a good horror film without character studies, without kind of examining them and like bringing out their good moments, bad moments, all that. So while it doesn't give a sense of finality to the further or its ghostly inhabitants, it does offer poignant closure to the protagonist that started it all. Maybe have a movie, maybe have a spinoff, maybe put another family involved. I mean, that would be kind of cool. Maybe that's what they're thinking. But I don't know. That's all I have to say. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. Really, really fun movie. There really wasn't a moment where I was bored watching this. Super fun. Kind of had like that college atmosphere, kind of had the family shit. It had a lot of things packed into it. And I think Patrick Wilson did a good job. Although not a lot of people think he did, I do believe so. I think he did a wonderful job at bringing this franchise back to life because I feel like it's been a while before this since we got a movie. I'm out, guys.